Hey everyone, welcome back to my first ever sketchbook video. I'm actually really excited about this, even a little bit nervous actually. So I'm going to start by showing you the cover. Some of you might recognize this. This is from The Lord of the Rings. In this book, I have concentrated on using ballpoint pens. So let me just show you quickly. I got these really cheap, some Papermate pens. They've come in a variety of colours, and my plan was to fill a small A5 sketchbook using these and nothing else. So let's get straight into this. As mentioned, it is an A5 sketchbook, so it's only very small. I am only using Biro, which isn't my speciality, let's call it. The first sketch in here is King Thranduil from The Hobbit. So a bit of a warning, there are a few Lord of the Rings and Hobbit sketches throughout. But I've tried to keep this book more of a sort of general, more so fantasy art book, but pretty much just whatever I was fancying at the time. That first one I think took about an hour. It's not the best one in here. This second one, I think the film was called The Great Wall. I didn't actually search for this though. It was, I think it was on like an armor Tumblr blog. And I just thought it was pretty cool, and it was blue armor, so I thought it was a pretty cool way of actually using the blue pens, as well as using the lighter blue one. I then switched to the darker one, which I kind of regretted because I then had to go over a lot of the lighter bits again to match the darker bits, and it just didn't work as well as I thought. This one is, again, this one makes me laugh a bit. This is from The Lord of the Rings. These are two orcs or a goblin from the Lord of the Rings movies. So like before, it was an opportunity just to use a blue on an orc that was slightly blue in the film and green on a goblin. To be honest, I got some similarities, so at the time of doing them I thought they were okay, but then looking at them now, there's some bits that are really wrong. Like I think the eye is just way too big, so I kind of messed that up a bit, but I guess that's the joy of working with biros or ballpoint pens. So this one is hopefully pretty self-explanatory. This was just an hour sketch of the Hulk. Like most of this sketchbook, I just basically found random images online, something I thought was cool and fancied drawing at the time. As you've noticed, I am only doing one side. That's because some of them went through a little bit. If I'm being completely honest, I probably could have filled the other one, but it took me way too long to fill this sketchbook as it is. To say that it's a very small one that's only 20 pages. So for now I'm going to call it a victory anyway. So this one is another Lord of the Rings one. This is just a few sketches of Uruk-hai and a Berserker Uruk-hai there. These ones, I actually thought it worked quite well doing a format of 3. So I use this throughout the book a bit as well, you'll see. I don't think I could get much more on there though. With it only being such a small sketchbook, I was a little bit limited. Another Lord of the Rings one. This one is quite literally just a screenshot from the movie. For those of you who are familiar with it, you probably don't need me to explain, but this is in the Mines of Moria when one of the hobbits first sees the cave troll. Hopefully it's recognisable. It's quite rough. It was only 1 hour, but for me to do something like this in an hour is quite surprising actually, because I generally work quite slow. This one, again, I think this was on Pinterest whilst looking at like fantasy armors and things like that. You can see on most of these I've written how long it took. So this one was 2 to 3 hours, and the date, which I shouldn't point out because it took way too long from start to finish. Some of the sketches in this book are rougher, more sketch-like, I guess the intent of a sketchbook. Ones like this, for me, are actually quite refined, so I'm not sure if sketchbook is the right word, an illustration book, let's call it. But anyway, I found out after drawing this that it is from the video game either Skyrim or Elder Scrolls Online. I feel like it turned out to be Skyrim and was called Nightingale Armor. You guys can correct me in the comments. This one is not one of my favourites in here, I'm going to be honest. This one turned out okay. This one just looks terrible. And you can see that I even drew it even longer or taller, so it was ridiculous. I tried to get away with cutting it down a bit, but again, ballpoint pens, you can't really erase. It's not a pencil, so it didn't work too well. And it ended up looking quite basic. I think this was from the app on my phone called Raid Shadow Legends. Let's turn it horizontal for this one. This, another Lord of the Rings one. This was meant to be the Balrog from the first Lord of the Rings movie. I think the reference I used was actually a toy, so it wasn't quite to the movie, but it was based on it. Again, this was another chance for me to use a few different colours. So I used the orange, the red, and obviously the black. I think throughout this sketchbook I used the black one the most, but the sepia one was pretty cool as well. Probably would have looked much better if I could have done something with a background, but I wouldn't have known what to do, and it already took me a really long time to do this one. I think I did this one over a couple of days, maybe longer. Okay, so as well as the black pen, the sepia pen was probably my favourite. I don't know why, it just felt nice to write with. And the purple one's quite nice as well, we'll see that one soon. Hopefully you can tell these are just some studies of horse heads. Again, using 3 on a page format. Not actually fantasy art, but you always find a lot of horses in fantasy things, you know, even if it's just people riding them. Same colour pen, again, this time, same sort of principle, using 3 different head studies, one of them being a skeleton or a skull. But this time going with a T-Rex, because I do think dinosaurs are just cool, if I'm being honest. I don't know if I need a better reason than that. They're not really fantasy, but I think a lot of it fits into other designs, you know, when it comes to like dragons and stuff, so it's in there. And whilst I was drawing dinosaurs, I thought another cool one to draw would be a Triceratops. This time I decided to go for the purple pen because I hadn't used it yet. Looking back, there are actually a couple of colours in this pack that I didn't get round to using. I think I got into probably a bad habit of using the black one the most. Here we have another Lord of the Rings one. So this is a fell beast. This is what the Nazgul or the ringwraiths ride on when they're not on horses. So this is like a flying dragon, wyvern type creature. I've seen these without their masks. They're really weird and kind of look like snakes, to be honest. Only took me 1 hour, which again, for something like this is really surprising. I think I got quite lucky with some of these illustrations. Some of them could have gone either way. And here we've got another fantasy beast. This one is from the Harry Potter films. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's spelt like Thestral. And I think it's people who have witnessed some sort of death in their life can see these creatures. They kind of look a little bit like a horse, but they have a bit of a dark feel to them. But it's a pretty cool design. So whilst I was Googling Harry Potter, it came up with a lot of other images from the Harry Potter films and, of course, the Fantastic Beasts movie. So I went back to that 3 on a page format, and this time I tried to draw 3 random beasts. Looking back, this one is quite basic and simple. There's not much to it. But this one that I actually couldn't fit on was a little bit more complicated. I can't actually remember the names of them all off the top of my head. I think this one's Niffler. You guys can probably tell me in the comments below. So whilst I was on a roll with that, I used the red pen. I was looking for some sort of red creatures in Fantastic Beasts and Harry Potter. So we've got Fawkes, who is the Phoenix in the Harry Potter films. And again, one that I cannot remember the name of. A big, like, cat-like creature with these weird flame hair things. Yeah, not too much to really say about it, to be honest. I was pleased with how they came out, though. And again, another Harry Potter one. These ones I actually think turned out really good. To say these were just sketches, it could have gone either way at one point, but yeah, I really liked them. This one I think is the one from the Gringotts Bank in Harry Potter, and I cannot remember which movie is which off the top of my head, but there's one that's got quite a few dragons in, and I think that's what that's from. Again, I just googled the photo reference. I think this one is actually a photo of one of the museums or the Harry Potter worlds where they've got the figures out and stuff. This one is one that my friend suggested. I'm not too familiar with the design, but I think they're called a Deathclaw, and it's from the Fallout games, or at least from the most recent one. I'm not sure if they're in the older ones. Again, just focusing on the head, I did very faintly draw the body in the background just so that it wasn't too blank. Overall, I was pretty pleased with the way this one turned out, but I think I made the gap in the middle a little bit too big. It does have a gap there, but I made him look probably a little bit goofier than I should have done. Whilst I was on a roll with fantasy creatures, or weird creatures, let's be honest, I decided I would use the colours to try and draw 3 well-known creatures from Star Wars Episode 2, I think the film is. I always liked this when I was a kid. I always thought these were really cool. To be honest, this one needs budging up here, and it would have fit a lot better. But again, it's quite difficult to judge when you're not used to using ballpoint pens. I'm used to using, pencil and being able to rough it in a little bit more first. But yeah, I mean, overall, they turned out okay. Not my favourite. And last of all, we have this one that I just finished about an hour ago. This is from the Hobbit movies. And this is Azog or Azog. I'm not sure the actual correct way to pronounce it. I'm pretty pleased with the way this one turned out. It's more of a portrait, just an ugly portrait, I guess. I think I got the proportions off a little bit. I've maybe drawn his face a little bit too wide or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I was really pleased with that. And that's the last page. So I actually, coincidentally, there was no reason for it, but I started with a drawing from the Hobbit film and ended with it. I think this one is much better quality. That's one of my favourites, whereas this is one of my least favourites. So, there we have it. Again, this is the sketchbook cover. I made a video on this last week, so I will post a link to that in the description box below. This video was actually inspired by the YouTube channel Sketchy Trav. He posts a lot of videos like this and his are amazing quality. Again, I will put links in the description box below. If you are interested in seeing more of my illustrations and sketches, make sure you follow me on social media. Again, you can find the links below. Aside from that, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave me a comment below, hit the thumbs up button, and be sure to subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, everyone.